first of Pixar's two 2020 releases hits theaters in early March, so let's talk about it. A pair of elf brothers set out on a quest to find a rare jewel that will allow them to spend time with their dead father. Pixar is one of the most consistent and creative studios of the last 25 years, but the specific trailers for this film kind of felt a little bit bland and generic to me, so I didn't know what to expect going into the theater. I was able to see the film a couple days ago at a press screening. I was able to take two of my nephews and my niece to see it. So a fun little day. But real quick, before I give my take on it, be sure to tell me down below in the comment section your excitement level for this film. Are you feeling it? Or are you kind of like me? The trailers didn't look the best to you. With that said, let's get started with the good. The best way to describe this movie is that it's a road trip movie with touches of Indiana Jones, plenty of mystical creatures, and lots of Pixar emotions sprinkled over the entire thing. What pulls it together, like most road trip movies, is that the two leads are both incredibly enjoyable characters that you like watching the dynamic between the two of them, as they're brothers that have a lot of overlap in their lives, obviously because they're brothers, but their personalities are such opposites, and each of them needs the other person to become the person that they need to become on this adventure. Of course, they're voiced by Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, and both of them do such a great job. Chris Pratt does the bro so well, the energetic, clueless guy that has just that charm about him, and then Tom Holland is playing a much more insecure character than we've seen him before, but we've seen touches of this from his performance as Spider-Man, and you get a lot of emotion through who this character is and the trauma from his past. And while there's no shortage of humor in this film, there's a lot of Pixar humor tying back to the trauma of these characters' past, and it's interwoven throughout almost every scene of the film. The aftermath of their childhood and what happened to them kind of leads to this adventure that they're on to kind of rediscover their past. And so of recent memories of kind of more lighthearted Pixar fare, and this is a more lighthearted Pixar film, but it has very deep emotions to it because the story is so personal and deals with the loss of a parent, and it plays so heavily into every interaction. Even the final choices in the third act so heavily tie back to the consequences of the tragedy. Another fun thing about this film is the world building, where all these mystical creatures and fantasy elements have all evolved into suburbanites, and they're driving cars and they have cell phones and they go to school. So it's just an interesting spin on these mystical creatures and modern day life at the same time. And it sets up a scenario where you can go off on this wild, crazy adventure with swords and curses and treasure maps and booby traps that makes sense with what they've created, while also being very relatable because of the suburban setting at the same time. And as this is a Pixar film, the animation is gorgeous, and just what they're able to do now with the depth of the imagery and the textures inside of things is just phenomenal, where you see the characters are so cartoonish, but the graphics behind them look so real. It's truly phenomenal. There's also some creative things that they did with some designs in the film, especially as you go into the third act, kind of the final showdown, what they do. A really, really nice touch. But overall, while it's not like the most inventive of the Pixar films, it tells a straightforward story that has a lot of a heart, makes some bold choices in the way they pay off the arcs in the third act, some solid laughs, great performances, an enjoyable Pixar film. But from there, let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. And this isn't a good or a bad thing, it's just something to know going into it. While this movie lays on the Pixar emotion really thick, the specific journey of our lead characters is fairly narrow. A lot of the Pixar films kind of have big emotion, but it's kind of broadly relatable to a lot of people, like the Toy Story movies, relating to growing up and nostalgia. Most everyone can relate to that. The journey inside of this film has two brothers whose father died when they were very young, in which case they didn't really get to know him, and so much of the journey of the film is that desire of people who lost a parent at a very young age wanting to know more about them. On the one hand, there's a lot of deep emotion inside of that anyone can empathize with that even if they haven't gone through it. On the flip side, it's not immediately relatable for the majority of people. That's not a good or a bad thing, but that's just to say that while you'll definitely know a lot of emotion is happening, it might not personally hit you as much as you think it should. From there, let's move on to the bad. And the big thing here for me was the plotting itself was actually very distracting. The specific quest that they go on involving a map and the journey and the passage of time, the booby traps, and where it all leads to, I felt was incredibly sloppy in how it was constructed. It was as if they knew that they wanted all of these characters to be in a specific place at the end, but they didn't know how to move the story along in an organic fashion to get them there. And so they just kind of had to break the rules and force pieces together in order to have all this stuff play out the way that they wanted. But it just raised so many questions in my mind of like, wait, aren't these jewels supposed to be rare? Aren't they supposed to be hard to find? This doesn't seem like all that hard to find. Or other parts, it's like, why is it gonna take them this long to drive across town? And wait, how did they get back to this place so quickly? There's just a lot of stuff like that in the film that it didn't add up, and I was spending far too much time thinking about how the plot didn't add up than I was paying attention to the plot itself. For how intricate the world building was, it seemed like they put very little thought into the actual quest itself, and that really hurt the film for me. Real quick before I give you my final take on this one, be sure to share your thoughts down below in the comment section. What's your excitement level for this one? Are you amped up, or are you just kind of like, another Pixar film? Also, if you've enjoyed this video, I've got a playlist right up here of my ranking of a bunch of the most popular animated franchises out there, several of the different Disney eras, Pixar, of course, Illumination. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check that out. While this is absolutely an enjoyable and emotional film, the simplicity of the plot and the issues with the plotting itself stopped it from being another Pixar classic. As for me, overall, this is a B. It's a 7.5 on the entertainment scale, and you should definitely go see it, but don't expect it to be another Pixar classic. If you want more content like this, check out that playlist right over there with my ranking of a bunch of the best animated franchises going these days. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.